Hi guys, welcome to Didedi's Crafty Corner. Today we're playing with the Spellbinders card kit of the month for August, the Little Mermaid. So I've already cut out the little pieces and we're going to get started by just distressing these white cutout pieces for the mermaid. So I've decided just to use these blender brushes from Amazon. You guys know I am absolutely crazy about them. They come in a kit and they are all different sizes, and I found that I can use every single size for all of my blending, and I think they're just perfect. They're not very expensive, and they're just perfect. All right, so I've started with scattered straw. Yep, scattered straw, and I'm just going to be laying down some color for this hair piece. So this is a cutout for the mermaid's hair, and the little face is going to insert inside the hair. Really enjoyed using these small detail brushes to give some definition to where I would want it to be darker on the crown of her head. And then I turned it sideways to give me some low lights on the top of her head, right? It's going to be kind of hard to see with the lighting right now, but in the close-up pictures, I believe you'll be able to see that it turned out pretty cool. So all I'm doing is I'm just taking my blender brushes, adding the color where I want it to be, and I'm putting the little head and body piece in there just so I can see about where in the middle of the white section I'm going to want it to be darker. You know, at the base of your neck where you would want the hair to be just slightly darker. I'm doing all this with one tone and with blender brushes, so I'm really being loose about it. You know, this is a very loose coloring of this mermaid. Originally, I thought I would do Copic coloring, which is my normal method when I use these little die cuts, but I wanted to just play around with the oxides and just see what kind of definition I could get in the hair and in the skin for this method, and I think it turned out okay. I'm pretty happy with it. So scattered straw is the only color that I used for the hair. We're just going to go ahead and blend away here. I've only sped this up 2 times, and I'm leaving most of the coloring in for this little mermaid so you can see it. Some of the tedious pieces I didn't show you, but I wanted you to really be able to see that this is achievable with just one color of ink, and it doesn't have to be distress ink. It could be any ink, right? Super cute. This really did. The hair turned out super cute. So I'm going in for just a few more touches, and now at this point I'm thinking, okay, do I want to add a darker color? My brain was saying to me, do I want to add just a little bit darker color? And I really decided just to keep it one tone, so I did that with most of these cutout pieces. I think for the lips I came in with 2 tones, and of course for the tail I used more than one tone, but for the hair and the body or the flesh colors I used just one tone. So I think that looks pretty good. We're going to go ahead and check it out. Let's see if I put the little face back in there or not. I didn't. Okay, and then for the flesh tone of our little mermaid, I didn't want it to be beige and I didn't want it to be white or brown, so I chose the color Tattered Rose. Tattered Rose in Distress Inks period is probably one of my favorite colors. So I went ahead and I made it darker around the edges and left it a little bit lighter in the center of her face, and just colored it in with like one of the smaller of the brushes. And I think that this color, Tattered Rose, made the perfect color for the mermaid. Now a little bit later on you're going to see I come in and give her cheeks. I'll talk about the brush that I used for that when I get there, but for the cheeks I used picked raspberries, and I really got most of it off of the bristles before I applied it to the cheeks. That's the key. So now we've got the little face done. We're going to go ahead and start on the mesh part of the mermaid tail, and for all of the tail pieces, excuse me, I'm hiccuping. For all of the tail pieces, I use strictly my blues. So I used Broken China, Tumbled Glass, I used Mermaid Lagoon, I used Salty Ocean, and then for the darkest part of any of the blues that I used today, was Chip Sapphire, and Chip Sapphire was the key color in this project, believe it or not, because the depth that it gave really brought this mermaid tail to life. So I'm just going over right now, making sure it looks good, making sure I like that the colors that are on there, bringing out the other little pieces that I'm going to be coloring as well. So we need that the little belly piece, we're going to need the little tail piece, and on all of those I'll just be using little combinations of all of those teal to dark blue colors, or light to dark blue, if you will. I don't know, I think Chip Sapphire kind of has a purple tone to it. I really like the Chip Sapphire. Okay, so we got the little tail done. There's going to be a little tiny piece that goes with the tail that goes underneath it. So it's just a little tiny little accent piece that goes underneath the flipper part, the very end of the tail. We're going to be doing that in that same Chip Sapphire and picked raspberry, because I wanted to add some of that picked raspberry in other places of the card, so I chose to do it in that bottom piece of the tail and on her little top, her little bikini top that goes with her as well. So now I'm coloring in the main base of our tail, and again, like I said, I'm just blending in those colors. All of the colors blend really magically with these blender brushes. I'm using Nina 110-pound cardstock for my blending today. You could make the blending even more effortlessly if you used a Bristol Smooth, but I have found that with these brushes I can use almost any cardstock and it just works like magic. So if you noticed around the tail that Chip Sapphire is darker around one side, and that's going to give us the illusion of it being a shadow, as well as giving it that curve that we want behind her little bum into where her knees would bend if she had knees, right? Now I'm going to be adding some glitter over the top of the solid piece of her tail, but still, even with that glitter that I'm adding, I'm going to be using the Nuvo glitter. It's still going to show that dimension. So I went ahead and took the time to do all of my dimension ahead of time, even though I knew I would be covering it up, because I knew that you would be able to see it just a little bit through that glitter, right? And I think that's an important step. If you want to have a lot of dimension in your die cuts, go ahead and do them just as you normally would, even if you're going to be adding something over the top of it, any kind of sparkle or glitter. So I think that looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. And that's going to be her little tail. Super cute, right? Now here's the Nuvo glitter. So I'm going to take this glitter and I'm just going to put a thin layer all over the tail. And then when I am done with that, I'm going to put a little bit over her belly band. I believe I do, on her, that little top part on the stomach. That I'm going to do it on that little part. And I'm going to put some glitter on the accent pieces as well that I'm going to be using in the final card. And then I'm just going to set that off to dry for a minute. Here's those blender brushes. So the smallest of the blender brushes, one is a rounded edge and one is a squared off or a flat edge. If you pick the one with the rounded edge, it gives you the most beautiful little cheeks every single time for any of your little critters. It's almost like magic. But the squarer one does not. So make sure make sure when you use them, you use that rounder brush for that. And it's just, I've used that tiny little brush for so many things. It's just spectacular. Now I wanted my I can't see what I'm working on right this second, but I believe I'm working on the lips or maybe the base of the tail. But the lips I did in that picked raspberry. And then I went over it with the tattered rose because I wanted to bring it down just a notch. I wanted the lips to be, I wanted them to be darker, but I didn't want them to be bright. And I did that with a couple of the pieces over the, so that was the tail. No, I don't know what I did just a second ago. Not sure if it was the lips or not. Now I'm working on that little base part of the tail, and the tail itself is going to be that picked raspberry, and that's like a hot pink. I'm going to pair it with the chip sapphire, which are two of my favorite colors together, and I'm going to blend them together, make sure that they're really blended together very well. And then I'm going to go ahead, and that's going to be that pop of color at the end of her tail, and that's also going to be the color that's in her bikini top. And that's going to make it just all flow together. And I think these colors, all these colors together, worked very well on this project. So I'm using my art glitter glue with the fine tip applicator. I have two of them. One has a fine tip applicator and one doesn't. And I like to have them both on hand. So the fine tip applicator is fantastic for those little detailed pieces that you want to get a little tiny amount of glue on and get them glued down. And the bigger one just speeds up all the bigger processes. So I really like that. So now I'm pulling out her little eyes, and now I think is when I pull out her little lips. And then you'll see me go back in with the picked raspberry and then with the tattered rose as well to do her little lips. So I'm trying to see which way the eyes go. Now, I can tell you right now without a shadow of doubt in my mind, the only part of these little character cut aparts or die cut pieces that I do not like in these kits are their eyes. I just don't like the eyes. I struggle with them. They're just a little eye with a little lash at the end, and they of course show them in black with a white dot when they show them on, you know, their design specs. And I just wish they would put a little more detail in these eyes. This is such an amazing company. Spellbinders is so amazing, and they have amazing dies, and it's so much fun to create with them, but I just do not like their eyes. I don't like their cheeks either. That's why I always color in the cheeks. So I've done my little eyes just in black. I just colored them in with a black Copic marker. And at the very end, I'll be putting a white little dot in the center of their eyes. And I've gone ahead and used all those colors that we had on a few of those other little pieces that came in it. A little shell, a couple little starfish, and some seaweed. I left my seaweed in the same color, chip sapphire and picked raspberry, because it's just going to add the look that I'm looking for my card. So I'm using a piece of watercolored paper from, I believe this was from My Favorite Things actually, and that's going to be the color on the back of the base of my card. This is a top folding card. And then I've got a oval die cut, which is from Gina Marie Designs. It's a little scallop, and I'm going to use that for her grounding for where she's going to be sitting on the card. Originally, when I was making this card, I was going to do an underwater scene, but this is a big die cut. This is a big mermaid, guys. And I do all of my cards in that standard 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and she takes up most of that card. So I didn't really want to do an underground scene and her take up most of the card. So I decided to give the illusion of water in the background and put her centered, showcasing her on this white card. Now at this point when I'm taping this, we have had a rainstorm. It is super dark, and my lights are completely washing this out, and I apologize for that, but you can hardly see the color down there, and I hate that, but I had to finish the taping. So all I did to pop her up is put a little bit of foam tape on the back of her, and I did use the Scotch brand for this, and she's just going to sit right kind of in the center of our little oval, and then I'm going to place my little pieces just with some art glitter glue around the edges of that oval to complete my scene. So I'm taking the largest of our little seaweed and popping it up on the left hand side of the card. I'll take the next size and put that on the right side of the card, and I'll add my little seashell down by her fin and that little seaweed, and then I'll add my little starfish, and then for just a few little dots of color around the card, I'm going to add various colors of the Nuvo glitter drops and or drops. I a glitter one and a non-glitter one, just in a couple of different places, and I think it just tied everything in together. This die does come with a couple of circle, which are bubble pieces that you could use for bubbles in your background. I chose not to use them in this card because, again, she's really big. So that's what she looks like close up. I think she turned out super cute, and here's the final pictures. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. You can see I used some of that glitter in the little accent pieces, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!